Shalom and welcome. We're going to be talking today about a theme that I guess really can just be summed up with the words, we are living in an algorithm. I'll get to what I mean, and of course you'll see those 4 points behind me. So rather than dilly-daddling, let's just get right into it. So point number 1, black/white binary thinking. What is it? Well, simply put, it's when you think that the world is as if everything comes down to those who are the oppressors and those who are the oppressed. This leaves absolutely no room for reality, and most of our actual real human experiences that really exist within the gray. And of course, either or scenarios are so limiting in focus anyway. Point 2, darker skin color. Now, this is the idea that a person who has a darker skin color than you automatically deserves sympathy and is thus made to be superior in your mind because you're now viewing him or her or they as deserving of some kind of special treatment, which as someone wise once said, quote, you're putting the person on a pedestal. He used a slightly different word than person though. Now, point number 3, inherited guilt. I personally dealt with this a lot throughout high school, as much as I am grateful to my high school teachers who really helped influence my life in general. So I do owe them a lot of my gratitude personally. And in addition, I think I may speak for a lot of others who are between the ages of, let's just say, 17 and 35, that there's a really good chance your teachers also may have spoken some sort of narrative that basically says the British, the Dutch, the Spaniards, the Germans, these are all white European colonial powers who should just be thought of as, this collective enemy. And they're an enemy that actually prevents human progress. The problem with this very limited narrative is that it ignores the fact that these colonial regimes also happen to bring us the Enlightenment philosophies of the 18th century and folks like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who advocated for order in a society to promote the well-being of people in general rather than living in disorder. Who wants to live in the streets of Paris when you have to literally throw shit out of your window, out of your balcony, because you do not have functional plumbing? So that brings us, of course, to point number 4, because we know the Jews invented plumbing, of course. I don't know who invented plumbing, honestly. It was probably the Romans, but don't quote me on that. Okay, so do Jews really rule the world? Obviously not. We make up 15 million people. That's less than 1%. It's not even a full percent of the entire human population, which is estimated to be about 8 billion people. These are just facts. Now, obviously Jews have an influence in the world. Israel is one of the biggest economies, producing some of the most used products, whether we're talking about the chips that they manufacture, which go into things like cell phones, computers, and so forth, or apps like the Waze app. I don't know how popular that app is anymore, but it used to be at one point, and so yeah, that's an Israeli invention from it's 16 years ago, 15 or 16 years ago. So anyway, when we talk about Jews ruling the world, because I know that's probably some meme on TikTok or whatever, it's not that they rule the world, it's that they have a very big influence on the world, because Jews have a history of, within their smaller populations, within their smaller communities, really focusing on education. And that actually, of course, seeps into the rest of societies wherever Jews in the diaspora, whether it's France or Germany or Hungary or California, it seeps into the rest of the society, usually in a positive way, because we have some of the most influential thinkers and doers in society who happen to come from a Jewish background. That Jews own and run the media is absurd. Fox News exists in the U.S., but it's not an actual U.S. owned company. The guy who owns it, Rupert Murdoch, he's in his mid-90s. I think he just got married again. He's, I don't know what his personal beliefs are, but he obviously is a smart man who was able to become financially successful, and most of his success is built on the weaponization of journalism and basically brainwashing people. So for those Fox viewers, I'm sure I don't have to. I'm a broken record, but it's a propaganda network. As are the others, as are MSNBC, as are CNN. I don't endorse, I'm not sponsored by, I would never have any affiliation with any of these organizations because it's all nonsense. So that basically sums that up. However, having said all that, I do respect some of the personal views of some of the journalists who are on these networks. For example, I have heard some very reasonable opinions come out of the mouth of, I think his name is Steve Doocy. I know Doocy's his last name. I know there's like a Doug Doocy, I think, but I believe it's Steve Doocy, guy, say about 60. And he's a smart guy. I don't know what he's doing on that network. There are plenty of others. Is her name Jessica? Yeah, Jessica Tarlov also. I think her voice is very important because she drowns out, or at least sometimes if Jesse Waters doesn't get to it first, but she cuts through the BS, right? So that's all it is. But people like Ari Melber, people like Rachel Maddow, Steve Doocy, I think there are a lot of people who deserve respect and recognition. However, it doesn't mean that the entirety of these organizations are deserving of some sort of platform of credibility. So before I continue with ranting, I'll end it there, and I really would love to hear from I don't know who watches these videos, but any of you who happen to watch, obviously comment as you will, and I'd love to continue this conversation further. So I wish you a good night, and I'll see you soon.